People sentenced in the 80s to 2000s. What modern changes shocked you the most? My uncle was in prison for 20 years and the first thing he said when he got home was, "Whoa, I haven't felt carpet in years. It's so soft." And then proceeded to walk around barefoot for about 10 minutes just smoothing the carpet with his feet. I had a guy talking about this. He was sentenced in the 70s and got out in 2015. One thing was he thought everyone was walking around talking to themselves. Then someone explained to him that they were talking with a little thing in their ears. The other was that he got up to give his seat to a much younger woman on the subway and she argued with him. I wouldn't take the seats when he insisted. I think eventually she did, but it's upset the guy that the woman wouldn't take a seat when he offered, even though he was pretty old and grey by this point. Not me, but one of the most astounding changes I hear my dad's friend talking about is how having big asses was shameful and all models were flat. Now it's the other way around. He went in 2005, but released 2014, had a black and green AudioVox phone in his effects, and asked what he could activate it. I had to explain it wouldn't be happening. Lol. Like 3 months later, I like the iPhone, but I'm gonna wait for the release of the newest one. Adapted pretty quick. Got a call from a woman filing a claim on some abandoned funds. I got all her information and then asked for an email address, and she said, "What is email? I keep hearing about it, but you going to understand, I've been in prison for a long time." Communication used to be only the rich had phones, now even kids have phones. My friend got out of jail recently and was blown away by how many LEDs are everywhere and how many stores are using insane amount of LED billboards. We were all at the body's house and he was blinded by all the bright LED lights in the house. Edit, getting a lot of messages about this. My friend has a crazy bright LED bulb in the kitchen. You can see this closed kitchen from space. Also the ones only could believe was an H&M LED wall. Not me, but one of the most astounding changes I hear my dad's friend talking about is how having big asses was shameful and all models were flat. Now it's the other way around. Not my personal experience, but a man I worked with, after he was released from prison, after being sentenced as a young adult, was blown away by the touchscreen ordering at Waller, as we cannot fathom why the employees could not take an oral order from him. A friend said his dad's friend tried virtual reality after about 30 years in prison for like second-degree murder or something, and he got scared, fell over, and broke the headset. No matter what year you go in, when you come out and stand on the carpet for the first time is the most disturbing feeling. My cousin's husband, that she married while he was serving 10 years beginning around 2008, wanted the first thing he did as a free man was to go to Hollywood Video and rent a movie to watch with her. Then she blew his mind with Netflix. At least the idea of Netflix cancel wasn't far from his original plan, but he was shocked about there not being stores anymore. My friend just came home 2 weeks ago, and I tried to prepare him the best I knew how for the excessive use of cell phones by everyone. I explained that he's going to be amazed by the amount of people glued to / looking at their phones 24/7 in the store, in the car, on the sidewalk, sitting in the house watching TV, like literally all the time. I also let him know that technology is going to be really different since he went over 13 years ago, so cell phones were still flip phones and definitely not as interactive, touchscreen and internet accessible. Needless to say, the second day home he called angry as fuck. Lol, he hated how Jeff felt stupid and how he felt Lila child because he could barely figure out how to call someone, let alone video chat or FaceTime. At one point he couldn't figure out how a phone call ended up on the radio when his friend turned on the car. He didn't like having kids teach him how to use technologies and just was getting really discouraged, basically reiterating the feeling stupid mentality. I just tried to reassure him that when we were all exposed to this technology we had to learn it, and many people forget what it was like not to know how to use something like a smartphone. We take for granted how we learned something and how we were once new to a process. Today it seems he's being more patient with himself, but it's a daily struggle and one I try to be positive and kind to him, so he knows, if no one else at least he can rely on / call on me to just listen to him vent. Not me, but my older brother was in prison from 2006 to 2011, and he was shocked that all the TVs has gone flat screen. He also missed the advent of iPhones, so he assumed all these flat screen TVs and laptops were all touch screen like the iPhones were. I'll never forget this. I tell this story often. I remember being in 8th grade when you scan machines first Kroger. I remember them being first to have it in Louisville. Anyway, I had grabbed some milk and some other BS and this dude was standing in line with some items, but he was just staring as people use our new scans. Finally, after watching people use it and my turn arrived, he approached me and said, "Sorry my man, I don't mean to bother you, but I just served 20 years in prison and I don't know what I'm looking at, so I'll let him go ahead of me," and walked him through. He was crazy appreciative about something I wouldn't have, though 2 seconds about it was that moment I realized how badly America's prison system were failing its citizens. They're expected to be able to be tossed back into society with no new marketable skills, no social integration, no clue on the applications of new technology, all while not going back to jail. Shit is fucking dumb. I never give money to beggars, because in Dallas TX I've been told the same story by the same ones time and time again. However, there was one who was fresh out of prison and seemingly honest with me, because there was no sob story, just a guy trying to get fucked up. Around 2013 he came up to me and said, and I quote, "Man, I just got out of prison, been in there since 97. All these people walking around with cameras and their phones trips me the fuck out. Anyway, this fool over here says I can smoke this fat ass joint with him if I bring $2. Can you help me out?" His honesty and comedic timing / train of thought made me laugh. That's the only stranger I've ever happily given money to. Obligatory not me, but in the early 2000s I worked with a guy that was sentenced in the mid 80s and had just come out. He told me the first time he went to a men's room he spent several minutes looking for the handle to flush motion sensor toilets was completely alien to him. My first job, I worked with this guy who went to prison for a long time. I think he was on parole at the time. Dude made some pretty messed up choices selling heroin and coke. I think he threatened to murder his ex-wife. Anyway, this was around 2012 and we chatted often. When the radio played in the store he would only sing the songs from the 90s. I always thought it was because he liked that music the most. Nope, that was that last music he heard before going to prison 4 years. He didn't know what Google was. He didn't know YouTube was Facebook. Never heard of Twitter. He barely knew how to operate the internet at all. It was so shocking to me to meet someone who was much older than me, I wanna say in late 40s, and not know these things. Anytime I hear Hootie and the Blowfish or Blues Traveler I always see his face in my mind just singing along. He had really good attributes with things. He really wanted to put himself on the right track, and I hope he did. I wonder what happened to him. He always had something funny to say about someone, good sense of humor. I really hope he got his life together and is somewhere good and that has found out YouTube is a goldmine for cat videos. I asked a friend what the hardest thing was for him readjusting to being free again. This is a roundabout of what he said. Closing doors. I'd leave the fridge open every time without fail. For months you're not allowed to open or shut anything for yourself, and I'd accidentally let the pets outside forgetting I needed to close the front. Someone else had opened in front of me. You forget the last one in Rule CT and have to learn it all again. What was the thing you found you loved the most? Candy Crush. Gets phone back and starts playing 5 minutes later. Exclaim, they've leveled up excitedly. So sweet. What happened with Legos? They used to be simple. Oh come on, I know you know what I'm talking about. Legos was simple. Something happened out here while I was inside Harry Potter, Legos, Star Wars, Legos complicated. Kids, tiny little blocks. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad, I just wanna know what happened. Reading a lot of these comments is quite weird. In prison in Denmark the inmates have television and gaming consoles, radios. They can get information from the outside world, the news and so on. Also, why is it American movies when someone is being visited at prison they only have line 1 minute or so to talk and some guy walks over and says time's up, let's go. Vesting time is apparently a minute. Must suck to have many visitors. That he couldn't believe how crude and boisterous women have become. He went to town for a night out drinking and he said something like they were shouting, swearing and throwing up in the street. He tried to talk to a group of girls who replied with fuck of granddad. He also can't get his head around with the amount of people taking photos of themselves. This is in the UK by the way.